Hi, welcome to SQL Server 2012 administration course. At the end of the session, you will be able to gain knowledge on new features overview that are implemented in SQL Server 2012, list of pre-installation considerations for not facing issues during installation and when users accessing the databases. And finally, we are going to cover a simple high availability solution. New features overview. The release of Microsoft SQL Server 2012 has introduced many new features that increase scalability, manageability, availability, programmability, and security across the enterprise. With many organizations focused on consolidation and virtualization, this couldn't have come at a better time. As the demand for data keeps growing and security and compliance keep tightening, the role of the database administrator (DBA) has become an increasingly critical part of the organization. It is important for every DBA to have a good understanding of the tools available to help maintain a high available secure environment. This session will cover the techniques you need to understand to implement and manage a successful database environment. This session presents an overview of several new features available in SQL Server 2012. Although this session will not cover every detail of every new feature available in SQL Server 2012, will provide a brief introduction to many of the major enhancements. We dig deeper into many of these features as we progress through the sessions. There are so many features introduced in version 2012 to increase the capabilities of high available and resolves various performance issues reported. Let us see what the new features implemented in SQL Server 2012. New features overview. Let us discuss availability enhancement. Availability is becoming a greater concern with many organizations wanting to achieve 4 and 5 nines. Since achieving 4 nines allows for less than 1 hour of downtime per year and achieving 5 nines allows for less than 6 minutes per year. Living up to this expectation is not an easy task. There have been improvements in many areas to help achieve this goal, including the addition of the new always on functionality. Let us understand the availability enhancement. Let's discuss first on online index rebuilds. SQL Server 2005 introduced the ability to rebuild an index online with a few limitations that have remained constant through SQL Server 2008 or 2. First, you could not rebuild an XML or spatial SQL 2000 or later index online. Second, you could not rebuild an index online if the index contained the large object data type columns XML, varchar, nvarchar, var arbitrary, image, text or ntext. Starting with SQL Server 2012, you can now perform online index rebuilds for indexes containing XML, varchar, nvarchar or VR binary data types. You still cannot rebuild indexes online that contain image, text or ntext data types, but these data types are deprecated and should be replaced with the new max data types anyway. Indirect checkpoints. When a checkpoint occurs, SQL Server writes the dirty pages in memory to disk to provide a consistent point for a database recovery. Although checkpoints occur automatically based either on workload or triggered by certain actions such as database backup, there are few things you can do to influence when they occur. Now, in SQL Server 2012 is the ability to override the instance level recovery interval at the database level using the target recovery time option of the alter database command. The recovery time can be set using seconds or minutes. For example, to change the recovery time for the AdventureWorks 2008 or 2 database to 5 minutes. Coming to the clustering, clustering has always been a major factor when determining a high availability strategy, and Microsoft continues to add features to improve this technology. In SQL Server 2012, Microsoft has added support for multi-subnet clustering and improved and more flexible failover policy, as well as the placement of TempDB on a local drive. Always on. Always on is the big new high availability disaster recovery feature in SQL Server 2012. In fact, it was initially referred to as HADRN. HADRN stands for High Availability Disaster Recovery Always On. Always on uses clustering technology for failover while also keeping multiple mirrored copies of the database. Manageability enhancement. There have been some nice features added in SQL Server 2012 to enhance your management capabilities. You may not easily find many of the new features from within the GUI, but they open several options from an administrative perspective. For example, you can now use the plan catch as a workload for the database engine tuning advisor. Let us discuss the feature called extended events. Although extended events have been available since SQL Server 2008, Microsoft has added an extended events user interface in SQL Server 2012 to easy usability. In addition to the standard user interface, Microsoft has also included a wizard to further help with configuration. Prior to SQL Server 2012, extended events had a very sharp learning curve and parsing the XML data was unpleasant to say the least. The addition of these features should help bring the power offered by extended event to the DBA for daily monitoring and troubleshooting. Database restore. SQL Server Management Studio has been enhanced in several areas when it comes to restoring databases as well. First, Microsoft has added an easy way to check for and repair corruption in database pages. The repair pages grid displays any records that appear in the suspect pages table in the MSDB database. You can also execute a dbcc check db with physical underscore only command against the database to populate the grid. Finally, you can simply select the add button to populate the grid manually. Contained database. A contained database is a new feature in SQL Server 2012 that eases many of the issues related to external database dependencies, such as logins or references to other databases. A contained database has everything it needs to function properly within the database itself. A fully contained database has no external dependencies, making movement between servers without breaking functionality easy. Coming to the programmability enhancement, several programming enhancements have been added to SQL Server 2012. SQL Server 2012 contains several new TSQL capabilities ranging in everything from completely new functions to additions to existing construct, such as the ability to use the new throw statement in a try catch block. Let's see the functions feature. Several new functions are available in SQL Server 2012 to help make coding TSQL an easier task. There are new functions that you may already be familiar with, such as IIF, already available in many other Microsoft applications. A good number of the functions provide new options when working with date and time values, whereas others provide new capabilities when parsing and converting data. Coming to the sequence numbers, a sequence is a new type of user-defined object in SQL Server 2012 that acts like a global identity column for a database. The default data type for a sequence object is BigInt. A sequence object can be very useful if you need to share a series of numbers between tables or if you need to know a value before performing an insert. Coming to offset and fetch, the order by clause has been enhanced by adding the offset and fetch clauses. The offset and fetch clauses give you the capability to implement a paging solution by allowing you to specify a starting and ending set of rows to return with each execution. For example, you can return rows 1 through 20 on one execution and rows 21 through 40 on the next. Each query is a completely separate execution as far as SQL Server is considered. So the offset needs handled by the application code. Throw. Throw is a new statement in SQL Server 2012 that you can use to raise custom error messages. When used in the try block of the try catch construct, execution is sent to the catch block. You can use the throw statement include the inside the catch block of the try catch construct to rethrow an error message to the user. Execute with result set. This is a very important feature of SQL Server 2012. You can now return one or more result sets from a stored procedure and control the data type and column names returned by using the with result sets option of the execute command. When specifying the definition of the result set, a number of limitations exist. For example, the number of columns must match the output of the stored procedure. Additionally, if the stored procedure returns two result set, you must also define two result set. SQL Server will automatically convert the column data types to the data types specified in the definition of the result sets. Pre-installation considerations. Unfortunately, in most production environments, you do not have enough time to replan the installation of SQL Server. In addition to ensuring your current production environment performs as expected, you provide server specifications for new system. This requires a lot of research to determine things such as how much RAM the server will need, what type and how powerful the CPU should be, and the layout, size, and RAID levels of your storage system along with many other considerations. In addition to providing server specs, you also have to manage the implementation of processes and procedures after the installation is complete. If there is a lack of preparation and research time, you sometimes make the wrong assumptions or decisions when providing your recommendations. Although bypassing some research upfront will save the time initially, there may be an extreme cost you and the company by not taking the time to pre-plan properly. For the next two chapters, we are going to talk about some of the things that you definitely want to consider before installing SQL Server 2012. So the choosing SQL Server edition, Microsoft SQL Server provides multiple editions to help organizations with different performance and price requirements to accomplish their goals. Based on the requirements received, that is making a big assumption that you will actually receive good requirements, you can determine which edition of SQL Server enables you to fulfill those requirements. As always, the fully loaded option costs more than the stripped down alternative. So instead of always going with the best edition in the market, do a little research and choose the edition needed to complete the requirements for the application. In SQL Server 2012, Microsoft has consolidated the number of editions available to their customers. Now there are three primary editions of SQL Server 2012: Enterprise, Business, Intelligence and Standard Edition. The Workgroup Standard for small businesses and data center editions no longer exists in SQL Server 2012, while the Web Edition will only be available to companies that host sites for customer. Luckily, Developer Express and Compact editions are offered to us with the same prices and license agreements as previous versions of SQL Server. SQL Server editions. We have the below SQL Server edition. Let's discuss about Enterprise edition. Enterprise edition is the fully loaded production licensed edition of SQL Server. This edition provides the performance, scalability, security and availability needed to perform as the data layer for enterprise-wide applications. Standard edition. Standard edition is another licensed production system without all the features of the enterprise edition, but it is built to provide easy of use and manageability. Standard edition is to run in environments where you have determined that the features provided only in the enterprise edition are not needed to accomplish the current and future requirements of all the applications running on the server. Coming to the Developer Edition contains all the features of the Enterprise Edition, but it is licensed for non-production system. This edition is ideal for developers or administrators looking to install and test out SQL Server 2012. Business Intelligent Edition. Business Intelligent Edition is the new edition created by Microsoft that includes all the standard edition features along with additional reporting features for business intelligence. Web Edition. The purpose of Web Edition, as the name implies, is for web hosting companies that need to provide their customers with highly available and scalable solutions for a low cost. Web Edition has no restrictions on the amount of memory the instance can support or a cap on the size of databases. We will discuss more about these editions later in the session. Coming to SQL Server 2012 licenses. In SQL Server 2012, Microsoft decided to modify their license agreement from previous versions of SQL Server. Previously, when you choose to purchase SQL Server licenses based on processors, the cost was based on the number of CPU sockets that exist on your server. In SQL Server 2012, your licensing cost is dependent upon the total number of cores that exist on your server. Microsoft bases license cost in SQL Server 2012 on the number of cores that exist on your server instead of the number of CPU sockets on your server like previous versions. Determining hardware requirements. Now that you have been determined the addition of SQL Server 2012 that best fits your requirement, the process of figuring out the specifications for the hardware begins. The commonly used industry term for this process is specing or specifying out the server. To spec out the server is to create a document that contains specifications for the server, both brand and model, the CPU requirements, how fast and how many, and the storage and memory requirement. There are additional things that will be included in this document like NIC cards. So coming to the enterprise edition requirement, we expect memory should be 1 GB minimum and recommended will be 4 GB, and the processor type will be Itanium or OS Max, the number of processor type. Speed will be minimum and recommended will be 2.0 gigahertz or faster. Thank you.